we're at a turning point. Just a few weeks ago, most of the donor states of UNRWA, led by the United States, froze their funding for the first time to this agency over evidence that members of the UNRWA staff actually took part in the atrocities of October 7th. Evidence, as reported in the Wall Street Journal, that anywhere between 1,200 to 1,500 employees of UNRWA, a so-called humanitarian group, actually belong to Hamas and Islamic Jihad. And actually with us here, we'll hear from her later, is Ayelet Samarano. She is the mother of 21-year-old Yonatan, who tragically was murdered on 7th October, and his lifeless body is seen on a video, and we'll see it later when Ayelet speaks, was taken away by an UNRWA social worker. It's seen on video, driving a white SUV with UNRWA license plates. That just underscores so much of what we'll hear today, the problem with this supposedly humanitarian organization. So countries have frozen funding. That's where we're at today. They created 2 inquiries. One is by the Internal Oversight Office, known as OIOS. We'll hear shortly from Ed Flaherty. He's a lawyer here in Geneva, and he's an expert on UN investigations. And we're going to understand how this OIOS is indeed perhaps the last kind of entity that can conduct an independent investigation. It's not independent. We'll hear from him about that. And there's a second investigation, which is very significant. It's headed by Catherine Colonna, the former French foreign minister. She just stepped down about a month ago. And she heads this independent review group set up by the Secretary General. It's supposed to look into how UNRWA deals with violations of neutrality and how they respond to it. And there are serious questions about the independence of this group. Catherine Colonna herself, as she stepped down, she sent a tweet message publicly to the head of UNRWA, congratulating him on his wonderful work, which is needed now more than ever. This was on January 14th, 4 days after we began to reveal the Telegram chat group of 3,000 UNRWA teachers who were celebrating the atrocities of October 7th. So after we exposed it initially on January 10th, 4 days later, this individual, Catherine Colonna, French foreign minister, congratulated UNRWA on their valuable work that is needed now more than ever. Is she really qualified to conduct a credible, objective, serious, independent review? The question answers itself. And the other 3 institutes that are joining with her all have prior pronouncements and statements and reports on their websites which are anything but objective when it comes to UNRWA. So the international community is now waiting. This investigation is due to report back an interim report in a month's time at the end of March. And the spokesman of the Secretary General, Stéphane Dujarric, said that this group is intended to reassure the donor states. In other words, you're all going to have to give back your funding, and we've set up this review group to reassure you. So in a sense, it's all predetermined. We know already in advance that the group headed by Catherine Colonna will reassure the donor states, and they want to reinstate the funding. But we do have this 1 month or 2 months before that happens. And so this is a critical moment. And I want to thank everyone who's come here. We have an incredible group that is assembled here in person. We're going to hear from members of parliament. I'll just note 2 of them. One is Congressman Chris Smith. We'll hear from him in our final panel, which is lawmakers. He's been a leader in the United States Congress in fighting against terrorism and anti-Semitism incited by UNRWA staff. He's the author of legislation to stop funding for UNRWA. It's already passed in the Foreign Affairs Committee quite recently by a large majority, and we're hoping that it will head to a vote in the House itself. I also want to acknowledge David Lega, who's a leader in the European Parliament on these issues, and hopefully I'll get to see him in the European Parliament sometime soon. And obviously also Evasida Kanko here from the European Parliament and Caroline Yadan from the French National Assembly.